Why, hi there, I'm Ron Juckett, and he's Ricky Keeler, and it's time. Do we call this a happy recap? When you split a doubleheader, even if it isn't really a doubleheader, so says Major League Baseball. Can you call it a happy recap?
Can we call it a mixed recap?
Well, yeah, the Mets fans. Ask your fellow friends, the Mets fans, what Bob Murphy would have done. Anyway, welcome to an extended DoDcast postgame show following their doubleheader split with the Colorado Rockies. They lost the series 2-1, but they won the nightcap, and now will fly to Miami on trade deadline day for 3 against the Marlins. They won the nightcap 3-1. They lost the day game 10-6. I covered the day game, and Ricky Keeler covered the night game. First of all, let's start with your impressions of what happened tonight.
Well, I thought first off, Edwin Jackson had to give the Nationals length in this game after they used a ton of the bullpen in game one. He did just that. He was excellent. 7 innings, 1 run, 4 hits, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, 112 pitches, 70 strikes. In 2 out of the 3 starts, he has been really good for this team, and he's given the fans, I think, better than the expectations. And I said when I did the DoDcast a couple days ago, he's not as bad as he was against Milwaukee. I don't think he's this good, but if he can give the Nats something in the middle, you absolutely take it. And the kabooms kept coming. They looked, I won't say lifeless, but when you go 12 up, 12 down on 41 pitches to start the game, I don't know what the plan was to attack John Gray, but then Rendon gets the base hit, and then the kabooms from Adam Lind and Brian Goodwin supplied the offense. But that's really, I think, the takeaway from both games is the Nationals scored almost all of their runs via the long ball.
Well, they were 4 hit in this one. The totals for game 2, Colorado 1 run on 4 hits and an error. Washington 3 runs, 4 hits, and no errors for Colorado. 3 runs, 4 hits, and no errors for Washington. With the split, the Nats go 62-41. The Rockies are 60-46. Jackson goes to 2-1 on the year. Gray, Ricky thought I was talking about Sonny earlier. He was scratched from his start today. John Gray goes to 3-2, and Sean Doolittle picks up his 6th save. And the only extra base hit that Ricky didn't mention was Wilmer Defoe's triple, his 2nd of the year. Whatever is effective. I mean, if you looked at this lineup today, you looked last week and go, where these players come from? I mean, Andrew Stevenson making his first career start tonight, Howie Kendrick and left, Brian Goodwin shifting around. I mean, this is like the B+ lineup for the Nats, or A- lineup. Just Dusty seems to have given people mix and match the day off. I'll talk about it when we get to the first game in a bit. So they split when they didn't run their best offense out there. I know that's kind of all things considered in either game.
Well, we learned from both games, whenever you plug Wilmer Defoe into the lineup, good things seem to happen. I mean, he's been on fire this month. He had the home run in game 1 and 3 hits. He had a triple tonight, had the 2-run single last night. I mean, wherever Dusty's going to put him, I mean, honestly, Ron, I know Goodwin hits for power. I would love to see Defoe lead off and get on base, start stealing some bases, and let's manufacture some runs.
I wonder if they're going to do that with Kendrick. He has 8 stolen bases. Which I found surprising in his limited action with the Phillies. He batted 2nd there. That's where Pete McKinnon put him, was 2nd. But yeah, I think it could be worth seeing what Defoe can do leading off. Goodwin seems to be pretty consistent wherever you hit him, and of course Defoe will be a better base stealing threat when he's not hitting in front of Bryce Harper. The pitching line: Jackson 7 innings, 4 hits, a run it was earned. He walked 2 and struck out 6. His ERA now is 3.75. 112 pitches, which I'm sure is a season high for him, and 70 strikes. Now, this is why the Nats went out and got these 2 pitchers. Ryan Madsen, 2 strikeouts in a clean inning. He threw 12 pitches and 10 strikes. And Doolittle did not put the first runner on base, earned his 6th save of the year, and got a strikeout. 1 inning and 1 strikeout. And get this, Ricky, 15 pitches and 13 strikes.
Both those guys have been, I won't say Doolittle's been as advertised, but he's done a good job. Hasn't blown a game yet, which is, I think, a positive. And Ryan Madsen, I mean, nobody expected him to throw the ball consistently 96, 97, touch 99 tonight with the movement that he's had. That has been a great find to get him in that deal. And at age 37, what he's doing is remarkable.
So Judo asks, he mentions the same things that we do. Not only do they talking about Madsen and Doolittle get him do a great job, but they fire him up the same way Max does. Do you think that they will try Madsen in the closer role, or is it really just kind of Doolittle's until something bad happens?
I don't see why he should take the job from Doolittle yet. I mean, he's had some rough moments, but he hasn't exactly gone out there and blown a game. And I like what he did in Arizona. Even though it's first and third, nobody out, he found a way out of it. And I think that's a good sign, at least, to have that mental toughness. Maybe they try it on a day Doolittle needs off. I mean, that's a great back pocket thing to have, although Dusty seems to use both of them on the same day. He never seems to use Madsen one day, Doolittle another, as a lot of people have thought. But I'm not one to take Doolittle's the closer job away from him just yet.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta do it until you show that you can't. And while Madsen has the stuff, I mean, goodness gracious, he's coming off a TJ 2 years or 3 years removed from a TJ and hitting 99 out of the gun. Let him pitch where he's the most comfortable. And maybe there's a reason why they are matched up together. You have your eighth inning guy and you have your ninth inning guy. And until they falter, why not go with it? All right, because Judy says that I must do this. Here's the totals from game one. Rockies, 10 runs on 16 hits and an error. Washington, 6 runs. I wish it was 16. 13 hits and 2 errors. Freeland with the win, 11-7. And boy, that was an unimpressive win. Erick Fedde, we'll talk a little bit about him, or more than a little bit about him in a minute. He goes to 0-1, and Greg Holland gets his 33rd save of the year.
But they made it interesting.
Yes, they certainly did. They certainly did. Ryan Zimmerman in that first game became the all-time leading home run hitter in Washington baseball, Major League Baseball history. In the 84 years that Washington has had a Major League Baseball team, the mark is now his with 238. He passed Frank Howard, who released a nice statement today, pretty much showering Zimmerman with praise. Just a wonderful moment, standing ovation, a curtain call, which you don't see very much of in Washington, and Erick Fedde's debut as well. I know you didn't catch all of that, but you were going to do something on it, so I'll let you start. Don't go through his totals, but your impressions from what you saw and what you heard.
My expectations coming into today were low. I mean, for those that are upset with what Erick Fedde did today, let me put this in perspective. You're talking about a guy that has gone back and forth from the starter role to the bullpen back to the starter role. He didn't throw more than 71 pitches in any start at Syracuse. So I'm not expecting him against a really good lineup against the three that Colorado have at the top, and Blackman, LeMahieu, and Arenado, to go out and strike out 9. That's just not going to happen. So I thought he did some good things today. A lot of first pitch strikes. That's a big positive. The fastball has good movement in the mid to late 90s. The changeup he's worked on, and you could tell it's improved, and he still has a nasty slider. Dusty even admitted it. This was not a good position for him to be in. I was surprised, as you were, that there was no second pitcher called up to help him, and him knowing he was only going to go 5 innings max. But all in all, I think you saw some good things today, and one that, depending on how healthy Steven Strasburg is, deserves a couple more shots.
I was very impressed, all things considered. Let's start with he faced 23 batters, which on a good day probably would get him into the 6th or 7th, Ricky. Mm-hmm. Or at least the 6th. And 18 of those were strikes, which is very good. He was way, way too emotional. His mother sat there and cried through the first inning, which is understandable. I mean, my goodness, he's a highly touted prospect that was pressed into service, and it was bloops and bleeds. There was the double. There was a double hit off him early that made him kind of wobbly. And then in the second inning, he struck out the side on 15 pitches. He did induce 2 ground ball double plays. He should never have pitched in the 4th without someone behind him. And as you said, he should never have come up without a long guy to match today. Jacob Turner, you'll talk about this in a bit, through 6 innings, had his best start of the year for Syracuse. Turner would have been the move that I would have made. So if Fedde ran into trouble and could only go 3 innings, you're in a double header, for goodness sakes. You throw Turner for 3 innings and you save your pen. Turns out that because Jackson pitched so well tonight, he saved the pen. But overall impressed. Is he ready? No, I would say he's not. But I watched, we watched him, I think, a couple times in spring training, and the off-speed stuff was brilliant. The fastball wasn't. The change in his abilities between what we saw, and you watch him more because you're more of a minor league guy, but from what I saw in March to what we saw today was amazing. I mean, he went from Double-A to the majors, and I think by September has deserved a shot. Let's see. Judo says before we go, I'm going the totals for that. Didn't watch, but heard that Fedde did better than the stats suggested, which is absolutely true. And then he's been hyped like crazy this year. Chances of him actually reaching expectations were low. It'd be I'm very curious to see his next start, because it was so hyped up and there was so much attention paid. I mean, as I was telling Ricky off air, he kind of came across in the first couple innings like Jabba Chamberlain after drinking a 4-pack of Red Bull. Could be curious to see what he does just in a normal boring game some night in Miami or something like that, as opposed to in front of your hometown fans with a lot of expectations filling in for Steven Strasburg. That's a lot of pressure to put on, and he did. He put a lot of pressure on himself. When he was done, I don't know if you were watching at this point or not, Rick, but he sat down, or Max Scherzer sat down next to him, and the Matson cameras caught him, and they had a very good conversation.
I did see that, and talking with Erick Fedde last month, he talked about what it was like to sort of follow around Max Scherzer a little bit and talk glowingly about him, as I'm sure any pitcher would. But you saw the changeups today. I think that was important. He's been using that pitch, talking with Mick Reinert at Harrisburg and Kevin Brown, who did his last game at Syracuse today, play-by-play, wish him all the best. One of the great minor league announcers. They talked about how the changeup leads to more ground ball outs. He's not striking many hitters out, but that's where the double plays come in. And you saw that today. You mentioned just the LeMahieu double. Everything else was ground balls through the hole. So he's doing what the Nationals want him to do and getting those ground balls to minimize the pitch count. And I think that's something that you want to see going forward, especially against that lineup. Not getting a lot of balls hit to the wall or hit over the wall, for that matter, is a victory in itself.
And he was not hard hit. He needs to develop an out pitch, but he did strike out 3. Let me go through the line. 4, this is going to sound terrible, but it really was not as bad as it looked. 4 innings, 10 hits, 7 runs, 5 earned because of the two scored on the Sanchez obstruction play, which actually was a great NBA pick by Trevor Story. He walked 2 and struck out 3. He threw too many pitches as far as I'm concerned. He ended up throwing 87, 57 strikes, but Dusty made the mistake of not having Matt Grace up and going in the 4th when Fedde was over 70 pitches. Grace goes 2 innings, doing his great job as a Swiss Army knife pitcher. 2 hits, a run it was earned. He walked 1 and struck out 2 through 33 pitches, and 23 of those were strikes. Eddie Romero quietly just having a tremendous year, a clean inning. He struck out the side on 19 pitches, and 14 of those were strikes. Joe Blandon in a mop-up, an inning, 2 hits, a run it was earned. He threw 1 strikeout, 15 pitches, 10 strikes. And Ali Perez kept them in the ball game, an inning, 2 hits, a run it was earned. He struck out 2. 22 pitches was a lot for him, but give the Nats pitchers credit. They did not allow a home run. Arenado had the triple off of Blanton, and LeMahieu was really the only one to actually smash a ball hard against Fedde. Just dinks and dunks and whatever. Yes, they got beat. They almost came back to win. They actually had the tying run at the plate in the 9th inning in a 10-6 game. But as we said, the numbers don't sound good for Fedde, but you just kind of take that and go, okay, let's build off of that. And as much as we gave I gave Edwin Jackson grief after what he did last Tuesday night in Milwaukee, I mean, the performance today says that you can just kind of have Jekyll and Hyde type stuff. So I would expect that Fedde would be more comfortable his next time out. And if he gets another start, and goodness, probably could give you 5 or 6 innings if he needed to.
Chelsea Janes just tweeted that Dusty's not sure how long Fedde will be at the major leagues. Steven Strasburg, I think, did throw a bullpen session. I saw Janes tweet that he was having a catch today on flat ground or something along those lines. That Dusty also said Strasburg feels pretty good, but we want him to feel great. So you get the sense Fedde will make the next start through, which happens to be Friday afternoon at Wrigley Field. And again, not a good assignment for somebody who's learning to be a starter again. And Judo, I know, mentioned in the chat about the hype on the debuts. I didn't feel it was like Giolito hype from last year, or maybe even Lopez hype. And both those guys, Lopez had better moments than Giolito did in the debut. I think Giolito's was like 4 innings because of rain. Lopez gave up a home run to Chase Utley the first batter he faced, but still struck out 9 from what I remember. I think maybe Lopez's was a little better comparing the 3. But again, it's different circumstances. You can't treat Fedde like a normal starter right now because of what the Nats did to him earlier this year. He can't go 90, 100 pitches, at least to this point.
Right. Absolutely. Sure. Yeah, I think they really kind of messed with his development a little bit by trying to rush him into being a bullpen piece when they thought they would need that for later on this year. Judo says, I love everything about Max Scherzer. His intensity, talent, and athleticism, but also his intelligence and what he gives the clubhouse. Lots of parallels to Randy Johnson coming to the T-Bags. And, of course, anybody, Rick, is going to be nervous when they pitch for the first time at Wrigley Field. Wrigley Field, Fenway Park, Yankee Stadium, Dodger Stadium. I mean, these places, even the new Yankee Stadium, I mean, they are iconic. They host iconic franchises. The crowds are intelligent. They expect to put pressure on you. You know that's coming, and double with the fact that Fedde probably feels that he did not do as well as he thought he could. There's, you got to be careful that he doesn't put too much pressure on himself to try to make something happen. Of course, the big gap is Wednesday night. Now there is no starter because of the doubleheader today. It's still TBA. Strasburg isn't eligible to come off the DL until Thursday. And so I guess my next question is, I suppose there could be a trade the next few between now and 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, but my goodness, who starts that? Turner started today for Syracuse. He's certainly not doing it.
The only name to keep an eye on would be, I guess, A.J. Cole is one of the only options on the 40, and he throws tomorrow. So if there's no trade and A.J. Cole gets scratched from a Syracuse start tomorrow, I think he would go. But that's really the only option they have, unless they want to play Johnny Holstaff and have a bullpen game with the day off on Thursday.
Taking a risk.
It's not easy, but, I mean, again, I wouldn't be surprised if they traded for a starting pitcher with that in mind. But let me give you an update real quick.
Yep.
Anthony Fenech from the Detroit Free Press. The big story around trade rumors tonight is Justin Wilson, the left-handed reliever from the Detroit Tigers. Does a good job against right-handed pitching, has closer experience. I know Ken Rosenthal was talking about the Cubs being involved, and the big prospect there the Tigers want is Jeimer Candelario, who's their number 1 prospect. The Cubs have dealt a lot, but they're in a good position, especially with Wade Davis, a free agent at the end of the year. Anthony Fenech from Detroit Free Press tweets, the suitors have been narrowed down. The Tigers' dialogue with teams have become more pointed, as I'm told. This was 15 minutes ago. Okay. And then 10 minutes ago, the remaining suitors for what he's told for Wilson are Cubs, Dodgers, Astros, and Nationals. So the Nats are in the running for Justin Wilson, but don't get your hopes up. I don't think they have the prospects to get that deal done, but it's Mike Rizzo. You can't count him out.
It's Houston, I think, was in the lead most of the day, and then they kind of backed off, and who knows? Until it's actually done, we won't know.
A lot of the talk from Joel Sherman from the Post is that Houston's more focused on Zach Britton, which would be a heck of a move because Houston right now doesn't look like a team that's going to do much. And they were the team everybody thought needed that one move to win a title, and right now they're not really linked that significant to anybody.
If you're wondering quickly about those who starters that the Nats may go after in a trade. Lance Lynn did start today for St. Louis, so if they were to get him via a trade, he would not be able to pitch Wednesday. But Sonny Gray was scratched. Now, I think the chances of the Nats getting Sonny Gray are low at this point, but that is something to keep in mind, that if they did get him in a trade, he could make that start Wednesday night. And Judo asks a very good question: is a starter or a closer more important to us? And I think the answer I'm going to give is going to be very political. I don't know. I really think it depends on what they think Steven Strasburg's health is going to be. If you lose Strasburg for a long period of time, and I'm talking, maybe ramping back up like Joe Ross did the last couple of weeks of the season, a starter's more important. But if he is okay, then I would say whatever you could get for the bullpen is more important. But from what we've seen tonight and what we saw pretty much from Romero and Albers out of the bullpen, the pen is in pretty good shape. I would think that, if a closer became available, I would do it. But I think depending on what the price is for Justin Wilson, yes, if it's not too bad, you take it. But I wouldn't do a Robles for him, and I certainly wouldn't do a Soto for him. Would you?
Not at all. To me, they're two untouchables. And Erick Fedde, of course, because there's no starting pitching depth. As much as Mike Rizzo wants to talk about that he likes the starting pitching depth like he did yesterday, and I told you on the DoDcast last night, I don't like to say Mike Rizzo's lying, but look at the starting pitching depth. There's not much there. To answer Judo's question, I would say closer, just because I think after tomorrow, you can find a starter on the waiver trade deadline and fill a spot. It sounds like they feel comfortable that Strasburg feels pretty good, and that's a good thing. Makes you think, all right, if he misses, let's say, a couple more weeks, let's say, gets in a rehab game or two and is back by the end of August, then you have a month to get Strasburg back in the swing of things and everything's okay. So that's more of a wait-and-see approach. I think if you want to get a closer, the Brad Hand price is sky high. I don't want Brad Hand, but I'm going to give you a prospect to keep in mind. And keep in mind, I've predicted two of the prospects that have been dealt already, Mackenzie Mills and Jesus Luzardo. Keep an eye on Carter Kieboom. Has not been mentioned as an untouchable by Ken Rosenthal or anybody that's covered the trade rumors. It's been really Fedde, Robles, and Soto. I'm not going to be surprised if Carter Kieboom gets dealt if the Nats do get one of the Justin Wilson, Zach Britton, or Brad Hand trades, if any of those three happen.
Brad Hand has no closing experience whatsoever, as opposed to the other two. Britton today did pitch in back-to-back games for the first time in a while. It might have been since the middle of June. It's been a long day, and so I don't remember dates. But he did go back-to-back today. Hey, Seth, how are you? He says hi to us all.
What's up, Seth?
You can get a starter after the deadline. I don't think it's as critical. But somehow I would not be surprised if the roster that the 25 that are, or the 26 that are on the roster with Strasburg coming back, it wouldn't surprise me if there were no moves made tomorrow. I think they have to be pretty happy with what they have now. If they run into a hotter than hell Dodger team in the playoffs, then they run into it.
I think the team you worry about though right now, Dodgers aside, is if Wilson goes to Chicago.
Oh well,
you put him with Davis against Harper and Murphy and match up lefty, and he can pitch to righties. So he can stay in for Harper's and Murphy in the eighth, and the Cubs are red hot. I think that's the team you worry about before you think about LA at this point.
I think we figured this out wrong. He pitched or not pitched. The Cubs have had an 8-game swing in the standings in the last 30 days. And just so you know, that line about Rizzo and starters, Ricky asked me to talk about that at 8 o'clock tonight. He's been sitting on that one for a while.
Since last night, and you guys who were here heard me last night. Honestly, there's no depth here. So maybe that's just a ploy to get a deal done. Who knows? But also thanks to Kevin Henry, who was on last night from Rockspile, did an excellent job. Yes, we had a guest on when another team won, but it was a lot of fun.
Hey,
Kevin comes back soon.
Law of averages will come back to haunt you there.
Eventually. It was bound to happen. I mean, I hadn't lost a DoDcast since July 6th, since the fake rain delay. So odds were not in my favor last night.
Hey, I've lost 2 of my last 4.
It all adds up. You still have probably the winning percentage lead.
That's right.
I haven't calculated it yet.
Judo brings up a good point. Fangraph says catcher is important to us. Just saw the headline, so I don't know what kind of damn lies and statistics they use. Their catching is terrible right now, and in fact, I'm really concerned that they're going to be stuck with Matt Wieters again next year. I made a kind of a Anthony records available there, but I would think that they might look at a catcher to pick up for the stretch run.
The problem right now is there's not a lot of
good options.
Catchers, yeah. Alex Avila, you would think if the deal happens with the Cubs, a lot of talk is that Wilson and Avila would get packaged together, which is amazing how Avila might trade his own son in a deal. I'm a little surprised about that, but hey, to each their own. But you're looking at maybe like Wellington Castillo, Nick Hundley. Those are not names that move the meter. I mean, if anything, you waited out a month, and Pedro Severino, who did get a pinch hit single today, and Kevin mentioned this to me when we did the Syracuse midseason. Maybe he's just one of those guys that hits better at the major league level than AAA.
Lobaton, for as much as he's a good guy to have around, defensively he's awful. There was a play today where he threw one into center field. When he does get a hold of one, they're gone. I mean, there's no question about that. But I also have concerns about Wieters' durability. He never does a day game after a night game and takes a couple days off a week. He's starting to work the Johnny Carson type schedule. He had a couple of hits. In fact, he's the one that actually broke up the Grays perfecto tonight. Right?
Rendon did.
Oh, Rendon did. Okay, so Wieters broke one up.
Broke up Marquez's perfect game last night that went into the sixth inning. So Marquez had 15 up, 15 down, and then tonight Gray had 12 up, 12 down.
Okay. I remembered this.
It felt like deja vu that the offense was. But it's weird how this offense goes from scoring 18 runs, getting a bunch of kabooms, to getting perfect, being no hits through the first 4 or 5 innings in back-to-back nights. And
right.
It's just something, again, the league is full of teams that hit home runs. It's just the way it is. But without Trey Turner, without Michael Taylor, this team does not have the ability to manufacture runs. They're not putting hits together. They did that in the 9th inning extremely well, but you're not seeing it on a consistent basis. And that's the frustrating thing on why this team either gets shut out or scores 10 runs. There's no in the middle.
Well, it's like a V8 engine that can fire only on 6 cylinders every other night. It still will find ways to almost beat you like they did in Game 1 today. But it can be very frustrating when it's 15, 16, 17 outs in a row. Seth asked how Fedde looked at Game 1. You can scroll back and look earlier in that, Seth. We talked about it, but better than the stats indicated. Lots of bleeders and bloopers. Kid was nervous beyond belief, and it showed. It really did show. But there was a lot of good to take from that. His stuff it looks like it's going to be fantastic. Judo says Goodwin isn't a prospect, but he's also a good trade option. I agree. I wrote about it today.
He did not get it from there at all.
No, totally didn't read that in your article about that exact same thing. Thanks, Judo. I think Goodwin, though, to summarize, pretty much would save a prospect. He's pretty much blocked from the future because of Robles and Soto. And there really isn't a job for him to win next year because you figure the outfielder next year, outfield will be Adam Eaton in left, Michael Taylor in center, and Bryce Harper in right, unless Brian comes back and does amazing things. But Bryce Harper in right. Les Goodwin wants to settle for being a bench player. I really do think that on a bad team, Goodwin could play every day.
His story is fun to watch. You talk about the player, and this is why development is important.
Oh, I love to watch.
Former first-round pick. It took him a while to get to the major leagues. But since he's come up a little bit last year and mostly this year, all the home runs he's been hitting. This team, by the way, is one Adam Lynn homer away from 7 players with 10 or more home runs. They had 8 last year, and Trey Turner and Jason Worth are 2 away from 10. So there's a good chance depending on when they come back, you can have 9 Nationals with double-digit home runs this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there just isn't really a position for Goodwin to play. And so I think it's, it would make sense. He didn't expect Trinan to get moved, and he did. And Oakland may be regretting that now. Judo says pitcher failures are more obvious. Makes sense that a catcher would be a hidden weakness. I don't think they're that hidden with Lobaton. Weeders, maybe just, I'm not sure what. Weeders is a lot better hitter in DC than he is elsewhere. Yep, Miami is tomorrow. Judo says yes. Talking about our comments about the offense, they scored 13 runs in 2 innings on Thursday. Yeah, they hit 5 homers and 6 at bats in the second inning Tuesday, and then 2 the rest of the game. Seth wants to know what if our thoughts on trading Worth. No,
Can't do it.
There's no value in him.
Not even that. I think his leadership is extremely important.
Right.
And he comes up with the big hits when you need him to, at least in the big games. He'll work an at bat. He'll get 8-9 pitches, which the Nats need. Honestly, the Nats need more of that. They don't have a lot of guys right now that are working the count outside maybe Rendon. Rendon definitely does, but there's really only a couple guys that really grind the at bats out, like Lynn had last night with 10 pitches. Jason Worth does that, and there's value to that on this team. I mean, yes, he's not the same player, but maybe his playing time gets managed differently with a big lead when he comes back, but he's going to still be a value set. I would not give up on him just yet.
He's not a player that's going to hurt you. And, as Ricky said, his leadership ability and his ability just from the top of the lineup to grind out at bats, just to get that, to tire those pitchers just a little bit more before they go through the gauntlet of Harper, Zim, and Murphy. I mean,
Rendon, it's a huge gauntlet.
That's right. That's right. And I'm the one that's thinking that Rendon's a legitimate MVP candidate.
I'm with you. I 380 since July. I'm with you.
I just know they need Worth there, especially for the playoffs, because he has the experience. Will he be back next year? If he is, it'll be on a significantly discounted contract, or he may decide that that's enough. That's a lot of time to miss, and you got to go through the whole grind again. But he's not going anywhere. Seth says Harper will win the MVP this year. Maybe.
Good to. By the way, on a note on Harper, good to see him at least pinch hit tonight.
Absolutely,
because looked like he hurt his arm in the 9th inning trying to throw the ball to second to throw Tapia, who you said is extremely quick.
Stole a double in the first game.
Yeah, that's where Harper actually got hurt. And he's been pressing the last. He did not have a good series at all. Maybe going to Miami will help him. It sure helps a lot of people. The Nats have very favorable pitching matchups with Gio tomorrow, who's been dominant against Miami this year, loves pitching in that ballpark. And, of course, the pitcher returning to the scene of the almost no-hitter on Tuesday, Max Scherzer.
Yep. All right. So let's go through the Major League Scoreboard, National League games of interest, and the Orioles. Okay. Cincinnati beat Miami 6-4. Dan Straley did actually pitch today. He was shopped around. Milwaukee had some interest, but no one is biting, and Miami is just playing pretty poorly. Kind of like the Atlanta Braves, as the Philadelphia Phillies walk one off again. They win 2-1. The Cubs beat Milwaukee 4-2. Davies got racked by the Cubs. That lead is now 2.5 in that division. Cardinals make up no ground. They beat Arizona 3-2. So the Rockies would gain a half game, I believe, when all is said and done. Orioles beat the Rangers 10-6. Adrian Beltre got his 3,000th hit today. No one touched him on the top of the head. Mets losers to the Mariners today, 9-1. All sorts of things discussed in Staten Island about that one. And, of course, these two teams split a doubleheader. Dodgers are down 1-0 to the Giants in the bottom of the 9th, but the tying run is on second. This is the largest gap between the Dodgers and the Giants. 33. I saw this on Twitter, Ricky. 33 games. It's the largest margin since 1913 between the two teams.
Wow.
If you go back to 1913, that's the Dodgers' second season at Ebbets Field. That was a long time ago.
By the way, John Heyman reporting that the Cubs are close to a deal for Justin Wilson. So Nats fans, cross that off your wish list.
Yeah, I didn't think it was coming. We talked about Ryan Zimmerman. Yep, we did talk about that. And Frank Howard. And I actually did a piece on that earlier this week. You can go back and read on what Howard meant to the city of Washington and how Zimmerman is probably one of the most deserving guys to actually break that record. All right, minor leagues. I'm not Ricky Keeler, nor do I play him on television, but I chat with him. Let's see. Ramirez gets the win at Syracuse. 2-hit Gwinnett. 1-0 on Kevin Brown's last day as a play-by-play announcer. He goes to 1-0 with an ERA of 40.5. Harrisburg in a wild one over Portland, 11-9. Wow, lots of 2s and 3s in that one. Crownover gets the win as first at AA. 1-5 on the year with a 4.74 ERA. Robinson with the save is fifth. 3 home runs for Harrisburg, including one from some guy by the name of Robles.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. Norfolk gets his third of the year, and Joseph gets his fourth.
Norfolk had 5 RBIs today in that one.
That's pretty good. Potomac beats Myrtle Beach 4-2. Reyes with the winning goes to 7-10 with the 4.60 ERA doubleheader. So they won the first one 4-2. They swept. They took the nightcap 3-2. Mills with the win. He goes to 2-1 with a 5.02 ERA. No homers from anybody in that game. Hagerstown, a 2-1 winner in 11 innings over West Virginia. Fuentes with the win. 4-3 with a 4.35 ERA. The loser for West Virginia will get you a lot of points. In words with friends in Scrabble, Mazzacoli, 2 season that one. Mazzccoli, Mazzacoli. And Auburn losers to State College 2-1 tonight. Raquet or Racket, Raquet.
Go Racket.
Oh, Racket. 0-1 with a 2.37 ERA, no home runs in that. And if you're really, really desperate, the Gulf Coast League Astros have a game suspended against the Nationals, 1-0 in the first before the rains hit.
One thing I want to mention for Potomac, Daniel Johnson, since being promoted, is hitting .424 over the last 5-6 games. So he's been one of the surprises this year in the system. He's been playing right field. He moves into the leadoff spot with Robles and Harrisburg, and he's done a really nice job at the next level so far.
A birdie says that we'll be hearing from him sooner than later.
Although with the luck that we had in the last one, you never know. By the way, Dodgers just tied that game. The Dodgers I feel like the Dodgers just never lose. They never lose.
They're 72-2?
73-31? And I'm telling you, you're 40 games over. No, there should be like a rule, like you're 40 games over. I'm joking, of course. 40 games over, you can't trade. You put Zach Britton or whoever on that team at 73-31. I mean, come on. What are we talking about here?
They have endless resources.
73 wins and one of the best farm systems in baseball. Unbelievable.
It really is. It really is. I want nothing to do with them in October. Seth asks if Ryan Zimmerman is going into Cooperstown. No. The injuries, I think, kind of held him back. Judo says, I think he's definitely getting his number retired by the Nationals. And I would agree with that. He just doesn't have the numbers. Everyone likes him, though, and he's done so much for the Nats. It may help. He's not going to get 3,000 hits. He's not going to get 400 home runs. He's not going to score 1,000 runs. And he's not going to get the 1,500 RBI. I just don't see how he gets that. He's had an amazing comeback this year. Too many years of hitting 230, 240. I think go against him. I think he goes up on the Ring of Honor. He certainly goes down as the greatest Nat ever to play. If Harper leaves, he will sit there will be the greatest Nat ever until we'll see what Scherzer does. But a likable guy. First player ever drafted by the Nationals. They brought him in specifically for a reason. Kid out of the University of Virginia, and he has done wonderful things. I think I'm going to say he's like Tim Wakefield for the Red Sox. Who would you put in that category for the Yankees? Like a Thurman Munson, Bernie Williams,
maybe Bernie.
You were too young for Munson. I mean, he was the first captain after Gehrig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think when you talk about Zimmerman, the defense doesn't hurts him too.
Right.
Never really had the arm at third base, and then struggled at first base. I mean, first base he does okay, but he can't. It's scary. It's nerve wracking when you watch him throw. He would need probably like 4 or 5 more years, like the year he's having this year, to have a shot. And with the age getting up there, you're not going to see it. But I agree with you. Ring of Honor definitely on the table. And I think like the Mets kind of did with David Wright last year. You want to get Zimmerman to a World Series because the loyalty he's had, he deserves to get to one.
Yeah, number gets retired. He will always be a member of the Nats, whether it's an ambassador, maybe he gets into coaching or whatever. Revered forever and ever with good reason, with absolutely good reason. But character alone doesn't get you into the Hall. Judo makes it funny, Ricky. The Dodgers always seem to dodge a loss.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. All right. Judo says, is he Scherzer throwing 1 or 2 more no-nos and getting 3,000 Ks while still in that? Hard to compare pitchers to position players. I think if Scherzer wins the World Series, I think people will always associate Scherzer with a Nat, but you're right. It's a different situation. I mean, Scherzer goes above and beyond in the community. Just suddenly a great, great guy. But, Zimmerman, I think, is special because he was the first. They're the ones that kind of they lean on that to do that. If you remember the Expos, that was Rusty Staub's role, and he did that very well. Doesn't get you in the Hall of Fame, but it's certainly he will be a fan favorite there forever. And he says if Harper leaves, Rendon's in the conversation. You know what? Rendon's in the conversation now.
Plus, Scherzer went to a World Series with Detroit, so I kind of agree with you. You'd have to kind of win one to sort of be remembered as the Nat because he had some good years with the Tigers too.
Ivan Rodriguez today went in the Hall of Fame, and so did Tim Raines, who waited about 10 years too long before that honor to come. But Rodriguez is the first one to have Washington NL on his plaque. Okay, so it was for a season and a quarter at the end of his career, but still. There's a legitimate Washington National in the Hall of Fame now. How cool is that?
That is great.
All right. Then Seth says the Nats, Astros, Dodgers, Cubs, and left-handed pitching targets. It's late. I'm having trouble reading. Brad Hand, Justin Wilson, and Zachary Britton tango over the next 17 hours.
That's a tweet from Scott Miller from Bleacher Report, by the way.
Okay.
But that's what we were talking about earlier, Seth, where – assuming Wilson's now off the table, I don't know if the Nats are going to go above and beyond to get Brad Hand. AJ Preller wants the moon. AJ Preller especially is going to want the moon from Rizzo, who took Trey Turner and Joe Ross from him. And the Orioles don't want to deal Britton to the Nats. It's just that deal makes the most sense, but I don't think Baltimore and Peter Angelos are going to do that.
I'm going to say those names mentioned, the Nats will not get any of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think if there's a trade tomorrow, it's going to be for someone kind of like what we saw with Matson and Doolittle and the signing of Howie Kendrick. It's going to be someone that's going to fly under the table, and we're going to go, oh, okay, that's a good pickup. Seth says it could happen. Who'd you see play? Tell me who you saw play. I think Wilson would be the most likely. Hand just doesn't really have a role. They already have good left-handers in the pen. I don't see, and he's never closed. And if you're going to go out and get someone at the deadline, I'd rather have someone with some closing experience.
Let me play devil's advocate with you on Hand, and I kind of agree with you, but let me throw the opposite side out there. Brad Hand has been dominant in July, not giving up a run.
Tremendous pitcher.
Yes. And you could look at the other left-handed options, and you could say, look, we'll put a super bullpen together, kind of like what I hate to do is because I root for this team, but the Yankees, with the way they put their deep bullpen together. Just because they have other options, I think I put Brad Hand over Zach Britton again because of the Angelos thing. But, I mean, Hand's only 27. He'd be in your bullpen for the next couple of years, and you would have a foundation piece, especially since it seems like he's found something. And, yes, relievers are very unpredictable. I just think somebody's going to – I don't know. I just feel Houston's going to get one of those guys. Like we talked about earlier, they need a move, and they need to move bad. Whether it's a starter or a reliever, they got a great team. But it's just missing that one or two pieces, and it's a wide-open American League right now other than Houston, but Houston might come down to the pack if they don't get somebody.
Britton would make the most sense because he automatically fits the role, and you wouldn't need to go in back-to-back games. You have enough.
That's true. That actually might work better because you don't have to use Sean Doolittle as much.
This is from, I assume this is a series from Zuckerberg. Nats considering trade with Brewers Hernan per. Oh, come on! It is a joke. The position.
That's our PSA to watch out for fake tweets.
Yeah, thanks, Jude.
Tomorrow, no. Make sure everybody's got a check mark next to their name, and make sure their names are spelled right.
Rufus the rally pigeon is off limits. I'm disappointed that the real Rufus the rally pigeon didn't respond to my question of whether he was done eating after that 3-hour food orgy.
Can we get the pigeon to be the rally monkey or the version of that this year? That'd be nice.
Seth saw Pudge play when he was with the Nats against the Phillies a few years ago. Getting back to Hand, like I said, Britton makes the most sense. He actually has the closing experience, and he doesn't need to go back-to-back days because you have other people with closing experience. The Padres aren't going to want Brian Goodwin, even though I think Goodwin would be a step up.
That's where you'd have to headline a package.
Right.
Carter Keyboom, I think.
Yeah, maybe for that. But I think if you were to say which of the three is the most likely, I guess I would say Hand, but I would put it at about 20%.
And Mike Rizzo is great at picking out names that we just didn't think of. I mean, none of the three of us, Ron, myself, or Drew, were thinking at Howie Kendrick was going to be wearing a Curly W uniform. So you never know what Rizzo's looking at, what options he's looked at. And I'm sure you'll hear tomorrow that they're active and at least looking at somebody. We just might not even know who it is. Right.
So I think it's going to be one of those cases that when we get together on camera, the three of us tomorrow at 5 o'clock, we're going to go, what a great fit for a mystery player.
Or we look at other great fits for other mystery players.
Yes.
Keep an eye on the Darvish thing. I'm just because I think Texas is going to have to deal him. They dealt Lucroy tonight to Colorado, which is a good move. They have to get
later.
Right. Even though they didn't get, who knows what they'll get for him. They have to get, I think, I saw Buster Only put the value back of a second-round pick. If Darvish lasts long enough and LA's not willing to go there, and I'm not saying give up Victor Olbus because that was the conversation. You can get Darvish at an affordable price for the rest of the year. I'm not the biggest fan of you, Darvish, but that might not be a bad idea either.
I don't know what is value.
Maybe that's like a move at 330 where nobody's making a move and you swoop in and get them for less than expected.
Why not? Some people would be quite happy about that if they got Darvish.
I would say Sonny Gray, but I still think he's going to the Yankees. Billy Bean's gonna be done playing chicken.
I will. Well,
the Red Sox fan, you're not happy about that, but I'm just saying.
They're not.
You might get Addison Reed, so you might be in good. Yeah, both be in good shape.
How has Kendrick looked so far? All right. He hasn't played a lot this year. I think overall it's a good asset, and we'll get some good playing time the rest of the year.
Bobbled a couple in left field though.
Yeah, I mean,
the mystery with Adam Lind and Howie Kendrick in left field been a whirlwind to say the least.
Watch us get the Padres or Mariners closer or something silly like that. Judo says you don't want the Padres closer. I forget what his name is, but he's not very good. I don't know who's closing for the Mariners these days. Seattle's actually in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, Edwin Diaz. DePoto's been buying so many guys. Could see Seattle. I don't know what they have left, but they could get somebody. I mean, San Diego, they gave away their guys to Kansas City. So, I mean, unless you're talking about Kevin Quackenbush, which is still one of the coolest names in baseball.
Yes.
But I mean, San Diego, you got to look at it as they're in the long-term building, so the more pieces they get, the better. But they might just be content to take hand into the winter. They're probably the one team that can afford to do that. I don't know if Baltimore can do that with Britton because of his health, and I don't know if Olkin can do it with Gray because of his health.
Yeah, I would be absolutely stunned if we're talking tomorrow night and Sonny Gray is still in Oakland.
That would give, if you're an A's fan, that would give me reason to not like Billy Beane. And I've told you, I'm not the biggest fan of Billy Beane. Win a postseason series before you get a book written about you.
With reason. With reason. All right, here is the plan for tomorrow. We're going to, I don't know what time rookies, I think we're starting this at 10.
Right about that, 10:30-ish. We'll have a live thread up on the site, so we'll track all the rumors. I'm sure the Wilson thing will be, I think, done by the end of tonight and tomorrow. So we'll keep that. Well, anything Nationals or anything big baseball news, we'll have an update timestamp with tweets and everything like that, so you can follow along with us. And that'll lead you up until 4 o'clock. And then at 5, Ron, myself, and Drew will hop on for about a half hour or so, talk about what happened during the day. And then I'll be with you tomorrow night for Geo against the Marlins when the actual baseball starts.
And I will be with you on Twitter starting at 2 o'clock. We'll treat it like we do a game, go through all the rumors as they go through, and see what happens. And whatever cute stuff, gives us a good indication of stuff to talk about for tomorrow. So it's districtondeck.com. After 10 o'clock, Ricky will be doing his best to keep that updated. We ran a piece Saturday that has taken off like gangbusters. If you want to look at Mike Rizzo's biggest trades, Brian Foley graded the top 10. And it's a tremendous piece. So to go take a look at that. I won't read that one over the air. So 5 o'clock tomorrow night is when we're going to be on the air, the three of us, to go through whatever it was that happened that day, and then Ricky will get ready for tomorrow night's game. Ricky's doing Monday and Tuesday. Are we all doing that? No, you're doing Monday, Drew's doing Tuesday, and I'm doing Wednesday, or
you get all of us for Miami at some point
because Miami's just that exciting.
Mm-hmm. But we look forward to Wrigley. I think Wrigley will be a lot of fun.
We do look forward to Wrigley. In order to that, you got to go to Miami. All right, so give this video a like and subscribe on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter, or subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at District on Deck. Give us a like on Facebook. Everything's posted there. And, of course, districtondeck.com will have the storylines for the upcoming series against Miami. Drew is doing that, very gracious to do that tonight, so I could keep an eye on what was going on in Washington without having to miss too much of it. And so it's been a long day here at District on Deck. We started with an article at noon and then the doubleheader, and now we wrap up with you at 10 after 11, which is what time I told Ricky we would wrap up at 3:30 this afternoon, isn't it? When we realized that game 2 was starting at 7:40. So amazing how that works. So thanks for spending part of your day with us, and we hope that you will do that tomorrow as well. So 5 o'clock for the show, a half hour or so to go through. We'll go through everybody. With the podcasts, we are not necessarily limited to keeping it all Nationals like we must on the site. So if Al Red Sox fan is lurking, if something happens, I can talk about that without any fear of impunity. Doesn't mean I won't get laughed at by my coworkers, but I can talk about it. So for Ricky, who is with me, and for Drew and the rest of the staff at District on Deck, Thank you so much for spending some time with us late Sunday night. We will all talk to you tomorrow.